This 280-acre estate sat in the heart of Menlo Park. Its tower pierced the clouds, soaring nearly 100 feet above imported European fountains and gilded horse stables. Thurlow Lodge was once considered among the largest mansions ever built in California, but today there's hardly a trace of it left. So what happened? Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. This video is brought to you in part by Victorian Society in America. More on them later. Born in Ohio in 1827, Milton Latham moved to California as a young man during the boom years following the gold rush. He trained as a lawyer and swiftly became involved in politics. By 26 years old, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, serving California in Congress from 1853 to 1855. Latham's political ascent continued when he won the 1859 election for governor of California, a victory with an unexpected twist. Only days into his gubernatorial term, a vacancy opened in the U.S. Senate due to the dramatic death of Senator David Broderick in a duel. The ambitious Latham convinced the state legislature to pick him as Broderick's replacement, leading him to resign governorship after a mere 5 days in office. This made Latham the holder of the shortest governorship in California history, a record that still stands to this day. In the late 1860s, Milton leveraged his political connections to form a career in banking and railroads. He was instrumental in financing the California Pacific Railroad and the North Pacific Coast Railroad, earning him a reputation as one of California's prominent rail barons. By the early 1870s, Latham was a very wealthy man. In 1871, he purchased a sprawling country estate in Menlo Park, California, paying $75,000 for an existing manor and its grounds. The estate had been created a few years earlier by a wealthy miner-turned-banker, William Eustace Barron, and already featured a 40-room mansion amid 280 acres of landscape land in the manner of an English country park. Latham saw in the property the perfect canvas for his dream home. He renamed it Thurlow Lodge and embarked on turning it into nothing less than the most elaborate estate in California. Thurlow Lodge, as refashioned by Milton Latham, became the pinnacle of Gilded Age residential splendor on the West Coast. The original house on the estate, built in 1864 in a traditional style, did not remain for long after Latham's purchase. A catastrophic fire struck the mansion during Latham's extensive remodeling. Undeterred, Milton used the opportunity to rebuild on an even grander scale. By 1873, a 3-story French Second Empire-style mansion stood on the property, newly completed in all its glory. Rising above the main house was a dramatic 98-foot tower, giving the lodge a piercing profile against the sky. Californians at the time had seen nothing quite like it, and Thurlow Lodge was widely considered the finest estate on the San Francisco Peninsula when it was finished. The exterior architecture of Thurlow Lodge evoked European grandeur, but it was the interiors and adornments that truly set it apart. Before we head inside, a quick word about the sponsor of today's video, Victorian Society in America. Are you captivated by historic architecture? Want to explore, learn, and dive even deeper into the past? With the Victorian Society in America, you'll have the chance to travel to American cities and tour stunning 19th century buildings, pursue learning through internationally acclaimed summer programs in American cities and abroad, including Chicago, Newport, and London to name a few. Additionally, members will enjoy a free subscription to 19th Century, the semi-annual publication packed with articles on art, architecture, preservation awards, and book reviews. Visit the website below in the video description and become part of the Victorian Society in America today. Thank you, Victorian Society in America, for sponsoring this video. Now back to our tour. Milton Latham spared no expense in decorating his palace. He and his wife commissioned the renowned New York firm, Herder Brothers, to design the interiors, a choice reserved for the most elite clients of the day. Herder Brothers was famous for furnishing the mansions of America's richest families, from the Vanderbilts to the Astors, and had a San Francisco showroom catering to Western magnates like Latham. Under Herder Brothers' direction, Thurlow Lodge's rooms were filled with custom-made furniture, hand-carved woodwork, fine draperies, and art objects imported from Europe's finest workshops. In fact, many pieces were made to order overseas and shipped in. Every major room inside Thurlow Lodge showcased Latham's penchant for luxury and art. The mansion reportedly held around 50 rooms in total, each richly appointed. For instance, the music room was a showpiece of culture and craft. It was dominated by a towering, gilded mirror nearly 14.5 feet tall, designed by Herder Brothers in rosewood and embellished with some exotic woods. The formal dining room was perhaps one of the most splendid in the house, with nearly 20-foot ceilings soaring overhead. decorated with fine plasterwork and hand stenciling. On the walls hung paintings from old masters, while a pair of stone hounds guarded the fireplace, and on the upper mantel, a stag carved from wood looked out over the room. Perhaps after dinner, Milton and his gentleman friends would retire to the billiards room, cigars in hand. Upstairs, a broad second-floor hallway gallery ran through the house, an expanse lined with artworks and finely carved doorways under a patterned ceiling. In the center, a balustraded oculus was flanked by four life-size bronze maidens holding massive lights above their heads. All splendor aside, if the interiors were fit for royalty, the grounds of Thurlow Lodge were nothing short of paradise. Milton transformed the estate's 280 acres into a landscape that blended English country elegance with whimsical extravagances imported from abroad. Notably, he brought back ornate outdoor fountains from Europe, which he installed throughout the property. The estate's layout consciously upped the domain of English gentry with rolling lawns, manicured groves of oak and laurel, and a grand entrance drive. Maintaining a perfect green lawn in California's dry climate was a challenge that Latham met with ingenuity. The property drew water from a special reservoir and employed an advanced sprinkler irrigation system that soaked the lawns twice daily. A true luxury in a land of long dry seasons. Thanks to this infrastructure, the grounds remain lush and verdant year-round, a velvet carpet of grass that astonished even the wealthiest guest. Beyond mere lawns, Thurlow Lodge's estate offered a host of extravagant features for leisure and display. The horse stables at Thurlow Lodge were designed with such architectural grandeur that they were not only more expensive than some of the neighboring mansions, but also larger. The interior was said to have been clad in rich mahogany and fitted with gilded hitching posts, and the carriages were stored in similar opulence in the affixed coach barn. An artificial trout pond was created on the property, providing not only a scenic water feature but also a place for recreational fishing. Latham and his guests could spend lazy afternoons fishing by his private pond. At one point, the estate had 24 greenhouses cultivating rare orchids, ferns, and other exotic plants. The sheer variety of botanical specimens on the estate earned renown among horticultural circles. Perhaps most unique were the follies and artifacts that Latham gathered about the property. These curiosities reflected the 19th century fascination with classical and global art. Visitors wandering the estate might stumble upon a faux ancient ruin or a seemingly out-of-place architectural fragment tucked among the oaks, underscoring the sense of whimsy and worldliness that pervaded Thurlow Lodge. For Milton Latham, the 1870s proved to be a dizzying roller coaster of fortune. At the decade's start, he was on top of the world, newly married, immensely wealthy, and ensconced in the splendor of Thurlow Lodge. However, financial troubles loomed on the horizon. The Panic of 1873 and the ensuing economic downturn hit many wealthy investors hard, and Latham was no exception. His railroad and banking ventures suffered in the mid-1870s, swiftly eroding the fortune he had built. In a remarkably short time, Milton Latham went from one of California's richest men to verging on bankruptcy. In 1883, Milton made the difficult decision to sell the estate that had been his pride and joy. He spent his final years in New York City trying to start over, but that too was short-lived as he passed away in 1882 at the age of 54, reportedly bankrupt. As for the mansion, the first to take up the mantle was Mary Hopkins, the recent widow of railroad baron Mark Hopkins. Mrs. Hopkins purchased the Menlo Park estate and all its contents, and in doing so, arguably saved it from being broken up. She renamed the property Sherwood Hall and made a few conspicuous changes, including painting the all-white house in shades of greens and reds. In 1888, upon her remarriage, she generously deeded Sherwood Hall to her adopted son, Timothy Hopkins, as a wedding gift. Timothy was an avid botanist and greatly expanded the estate's greenhouses and experimental gardens. He passed away in 1936, and his widow found the estate difficult to maintain alone. Ultimately, she decided to relinquish it, and around 1940, Sherwood Hall was donated to Stanford University. Stanford University initially used the property to further Timothy's horticultural legacy. For a time it was an arboretum and plant research site, but world events soon intervened in a drastic way. With the entry of the United States into World War II, the federal government sought sites in California to establish military facilities. The spacious Sherwood Hall estate was selected for conversion into a military hospital. The mansion itself was demolished in 1942, ending its almost 70-year existence. The luxurious main house, the iconic tower, and the stables and other outbuildings all were torn down to make way for rows of hospital wards and facilities for wartime use. Practically the only structure spared was the quaint gatehouse at the entrance, which the army kept and used as officers' quarters during the war. And thankfully, while the rest of the estate has been discarded, the gatehouse continues to stand, a gentle reminder of what it once guarded. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. What did you think about Thurlow Lodge? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd also like to say a very special thank you to Victorian Society in America for sponsoring this video. Check out their link in the video description to find out how you can get involved today. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time on This House.